Hey there, this is Allissa Haines from your Blueprint for Success 2020 Mind Your Money series, and I am nerding out about allowable tax deductions. I love this stuff. And I love this stuff because understanding it makes it easier for me to take more money home with me at the end of every tax year. And that's why I want you to love this stuff, or at least just grudgingly get into it and understand how these allowable deductions can help you take more money home. I want to note that I am not a bookkeeper or a CPA or a tax preparer, so what you're going to hear is information that I've learned about allowable tax deductions, and you should always consult your tax preparer before you take any of this as tax gospel. I want to cover a few of the confusing and or gray areas of allowable tax deductions. And the first one is about mileage. Now, there's a couple of different ways to recoup some expenses from when you drive your personal vehicle around for business. But the most common option is your standard mileage rate method. And that means that for every business mile I drive in 2020, I get 57.5 cents taken off of my taxable income. So at the end of the year, depending on how many business errands or how many out-call jobs you do, you could have several hundred to $1,000 or more worth of mileage deductions. And that comes off of your taxable income. So you don't pay tax on that amount. So it's pretty sweet, lowering your tax burden. Yay. But what are business miles? They are not commuting miles. Commuting miles are when you go from where you live to where you work. If you work in your home, then you don't have commuting miles. So for me, I drive to my office, that's a commute. And then from my office, I drive to the laundromat, the bank, what have you, any business related task. And that is business mileage. If I had an office in my home, then when I left my home to perform a business task, like go pick up paper towels for the office bathroom, or get laundry detergent, or go to the bank, those are business miles. To and from your place of business for business purposes. The best way to keep track of these is, I personally think, an app. Putting an app on my smartphone that tracks where I am and tracks my drives. And then at the end of every day or week, I just swipe if it's a personal drive or a business mile. There you go. And it keeps a track of it. And at the end of each month or year, I can just print out a report and I know how many business miles I've driven that year. If you're not into an app, you can just keep a paper log in your vehicle. You can totally get these online or at any office supply store, or just print your own out, or just use a notebook. And I would write, if I was going to the bank tomorrow, that on this date, my mileage before I left my office or my home office was 20,200 miles in my vehicle. And then if I went right to the bank and right home, I would write that it's 20,208 miles, because it was a total of 8 miles round trip to the bank. So but you'd have to write that down manually every time you drive a business mile, which is why I need to use the app. It works better for me. But at the end of the year, I have a couple of $100s that come off of my taxable income. So I'm not paying taxes on those few $100s that represent all the business miles I have driven. Another deduction that's good to know the distinctions between it are meals. So if I go and have lunch with a massage colleague and we talk about our CE classes and how we run our massage businesses, it's considered a business meal because it was with a business contact, and I would be allowed to deduct 50% of the cost of that meal. So if I paid for our meals, then I could deduct 50% the cost of that business meal. There are times when you are allowed to deduct 100% of the cost of a business meal. And that is if you are traveling away from home where you couldn't have packed a lunch or gone home to eat. If you go to a business networking event that's like an actual event and function. If you buy pizza for all the people who work at or in your office because they stay to help you paint, that is 100% of an allowable deduction. So this is a really good example, and I brought meals up because it's a good example of why You want to understand for the purposes of better bookkeeping. So now that you get this, if you think there are instances where you will have a 50% business meal deduction and a 100% business meal deduction, you know that it's good to break that out into two categories in your bookkeeping. So whether it be a spreadsheet or your bookkeeping software, you kind of understand now why it's good to grasp this and take that knowledge and apply it to your bookkeeping skills. Another tends to be gray area is clothing. So if I just wear my regular clothing to the office, buying a new t-shirt is absolutely not an allowable deduction. But if I have a uniform and I only wear it at the office, then yeah, I should purchase that uniform through my business account, and that is an allowable business deduction. T-shirts with my logo on them that I really only wear for massage or when I'm out doing massage jobs and representing my business in the public. If I decide to wear scrubs or some kind of specific uniform, ideally you're going to want to keep that uniform at your office, launder it with your business laundry. You don't want it to be crossing over into personal clothes. Those might be allowable business deductions. But ultimately, who decides what an allowable deduction is? Your auditor. I have an opinion. You have an opinion. Your tax preparer, your bookkeeper may have opinions about some of these gray areas of allowable deductions. But what it really comes down to is if you should be audited for that tax year, it's the auditor who gets to decide what's ordinary and necessary for your business to run and if that's an allowable deduction. And that's it. I wanted you to understand that there's some gray area. It's kind of interesting when you dig into it, if you're into that, which clearly I am. And I hope this helps you make better bookkeeping and deduction decisions. Thanks.